power time for this, thanks, Richard.
Okay, it is 4:30 on Thursday, June the 14th. This is a special call meeting. I have a motion to put the call to order.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor? I vote.
Absolutely. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your love and your privilege and your just bringing us together to do business of the city. And Lord, we just ask you to lead, guide us, and direct us, keep us in your way and your will. We just let everything be done in decency and order. And Lord, it's in your Son Jesus' name we ask and pray all things. Amen.
All rise for pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a motion to adopt the agenda as it is.
So move.
Have a second.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I have to retract. I believe we need to add an executive above the consideration of the interim city administrator. My apologies.
Have a motion to put executive session before we go to two items on there. Have a second. All in favor? Opposed? And abstained? Okay, so we go executive session. So, next, Bill, keep it straight. So this here is for the purpose of considering the potential appointment as an interim city administrator. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Question?
I would like to make a motion to deny the temporary interim city administrator candidate that was brought forward to the council.
Do I have a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor of denying the appointment of an interim city administrator? One. Before? Okay. And opposed? Okay, very good. And the motion for consideration of a waiver for the mayor's duty under code section 2.12.035 alpha recommendation of qualified candidates. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Alacant?
I wanted to look at the resolution as I was reading. Several points that I didn't feel were accurate. And I'd like to discuss those. It says, whereas the city council has rejected the mayor's initial two recommended candidates for the position of city administrator. I feel like the language there is that we had the opportunity to consider two, when in fact Ms. Cheryl Harrison Lee withdrew her name. And though we offered the other gentleman, my brain is thank you. Bruce Sutton was notified as to the opportunity. He did not come before us for consideration. So I believe that the language there is inaccurate. So I want to go on the record with that thought process. And then if you go, it's on page 2, second paragraph, whereas the city council has rejected
Okay, I got
the mayor's initial two.
you.
That's my input on how the actual process rolled out. One withdrew, the other one did not make himself available So with that being said, I just didn't think that was stated correctly. And then, two, we have given a couple of resolutions. One, and Bill, keep me straight here, I'm going to allude to the interim statement. We had a resolution that stated that we wanted to support the mayor, go through GMA to bring forth candidates. We brought us to this point tonight, but this resolution before us now is reflective of the resolution that we supported, allowing the mayor to employ professional services. He's now acquired 3 quotes, which we determined Monday was necessary. And we're going to have to employ one of those 3 to bring a candidate forward. But at that time, the mayor clearly stated that he has the skills and expertise to vet his own candidates as well. So we're just kind of, this council needs clarification about what we're going to do about the interim, because that to me is very, very important. This resolution, I think, is 2 or 3 pieces of the pie, because you did present 2 candidates, but they didn't actually come before us. And then it says that the mayor has an additional 15 days to present more. So we're not trying to encroach on his ability, the mayor's ability to bring additional ones. He's welcome to do so. And under the agreement, I believe the way the ordinance reads, he should bring 2 more forward. We do want to support, I want to support the hiring of professional service to assist, but I don't think it binds him or limits him from doing his own due diligence and bringing candidates forward.
Bill, if you would again, because you're one who drafted this up, to explain it.
And again, I'm not going to agree or disagree with the characterization relating to the language. Obviously, it could be fine-tuned somewhat. The intent of the resolution basically was just to allow the council to waive the requirement that the mayor bring forth additional candidates during the time of the executive search process. And obviously, if the council chooses not to do that, then the mayor would bring forth additional candidates as he sees fit.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question also, Bill. If you look in paragraph 4, where it says, whereas it appears the city council that the mayor has hired an appropriate executive firm to assist him with the identification and selection of qualified candidates for the position of city administrator, I stay confused because we just had a council meeting Monday night where check signing procedures were denied based on the position of city manager versus city administrator. Do we have, again, Monday night it was said that basically the settlement agreement was not to be looked at. We go back to the charter, but the charter doesn't say city administrator, it says city manager. So are we using, it's confusing.
I will admit that it is confusing. That's true.
If we're not going to use city administrator and the settlement agreement has no validity, we do not need to use city administrator. We need to go back so that our citizens and this council does not stay confused and stay spun up. Because I'm not going to sign anything or do anything that has the inappropriate language to be come back on me later.
And I understand it's kind of 3 separate things. They're interrelated, but the settlement agreement is not invalid necessarily. And I'm saying this without actually having read the settlement agreement, but as I understand it, it is to the extent that it conflicts with existing charter provisions. The charter provisions would prevail.
Well, that settlement agreement, my understanding, and I was not there at the time, but that settlement agreement is one of the things that the mayor and the former council signed off on, that they had used the terminology of city administrator. Now everyone's saying that it doesn't hold merit, it doesn't weigh, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, then we should not be doing this.
I understand.
Thomas?
Would you clarify us on your position? Would you clarify for us your position on the waiver?
Want me to clarify? What we wanted to do, but as asked Bill on this, is clarify, because I appreciate the comment that Valley County recognizes I am highly qualified personnel management, my master's, and I do now select people. But we know that about when we sit there talking that y'all wanted me to go through other people, so I have no problem putting it out there. I just thought if I continue, I've got a list. I've got 2 more ready for me. I got a list. We'll just go down the line and I'll just keep nominating them however. But if we know that y'all don't think you don't like my choices or whatever, so I have no problem with using the headhunters, if you will, and that's what I thought I did. But if I think it's a waste of money. If you're going to turn around, I got up my list, and I'll just nominate them every 15 days to you, if you select them or not. But then why are we spending that money for these guys over here if I'm not going to, because I already got the list, and when you look at their contract, I think most of them said between 30 to 60 days they would start coming up because they want to sit down with us, do a profile study and all that. So it's kind of like a catch-22. I've got that, and I'll continue to pump them out, but I just think it's a waste of money then, because once we start, we sign that contract and say you select one of those that I selected and knock those over, we just wasted whatever amount of money the contract has. I just want to clarify, if you want me to stop, and you want me to use the headhunter search people, then we'll do it. But if you don't, I think it's just a waste of money. You don't buy them both. Because I got a list that would probably carry some good 120 days. Mr. Allen?
You say you're willing to do the utilization of the headhunter services, and that you're more than capable of doing it yourself, but you haven't alluded to or given us any inkling as to why you didn't utilize the GMA's suggestions for an interim city administrator. So, if you think about it, I mean, I agree. You said it in Monday's meeting. You think it's a waste of money. You said it again, you think it's a waste of money. We're trying to act in good faith effort to assist you by allowing the professional service to do some of that due diligence for you. I think most everybody on this council is going to be traveling at least 7 to 10 days this month. I think you're up to 12 or 18 days. It's going to be difficult. So we're presenting an olive branch of trying to help you expedite the process and let them bring good folks to you for your evaluation. So if you feel like it's a waste of time and money, it's just like a budget item. It's budgeted. You don't have to spend it. But I'm not going to support not allowing the ordinance that has been put in place with all the litigation that went on to relieve you of those duties.
No, I'm not asking to be relieved of the duties. I was just thinking you were saying about that. To y'all, I appreciate you passing that resolution. You wanted me to go through GMA, but I looked at what they sent, and I'm not impressed with any of them on there. I mean, and you made some comments to me about some you weren't qualified. So let's just expand it out there or whatever. I've nominated. If you don't want that, fine. I'm ready to continue dual hat. And when you guys decide, I will nominate the 2 in successions down the line. And I'm here for another year and a half to continue to do it. And if that's what the goals that you want me in, that's fine with me.
Mayor Stewart,
Mr. Stein.
I'd like to ask a question because continually over the last several weeks, you've alluded to the fact of your professional background and experience in personal management. I'd like to go a step back for a moment to Mr. Bruce Sutton, who was brought forth in terms of the Sutton report and also was given to us as consideration on March the 5th in a letter to us stating that I'm formally recommending and nominating 2 candidates, one of which was Dr. Sutton. These are great candidates and deserving of a thoughtful review and interview, and I believe the candidate would be well suited for a city job, and I believe we meet the criteria. I would just like to ask what sort of vetting or background check was conducted on Mr. Sutton?
Same as I do on all the rest of them. Now, the reason why there's let me reflect. The other council, I didn't hire him as the management consultant. That was hired by the other city administrator. But it's like you put on a review. He's brought in and only allowed to do 40% of what he was allowed to do, and then the former council started beating up the city administrator. They fired him and dismissed him. And so what came out of that, because I went by the validity of the GDI, there wasn't nobody there. For whatever reasons, it came out and the report was found it was unfounded or whatever, because they only had 40% or whatever. That's your opinion. You like Chevys, I like Fords. It's my opinion. I think he's highly qualified, and that's the reason why I'm nominated. And you have the right to turn him down.
Well, my question is, if you're saying that you completed that inquiry, I would also like to ask Mr. Thomas, before Mr. Thomas voted on Mr. Sutton, to approve him. Did Mr. Thomas do any background check on Mr. Sutton?
No, I just read the information that was before me.
Okay. Well, then I'd like to supply you with some information, and I'm going to resource the documents that Mr. Sutton supplied the city itself.
Councilman, I think,
We're kind of getting off of here.
well,
It's not, it holds.
my only concern is to avoid discussing Mr. Sutton in public session to the extent possible. In other words, I understand your question to the mayor and all that, that's fine, but I think it would be risky for the council to discuss in public session qualifications or lack thereof or whatever, Mr. Sutton.
I would encourage us to stay focused on that consideration of the waiver, going in waiver or not. That's what I think the consideration here
Mr. Mayor?
is that.
In the resolution that we asked for you to consider candidates brought by GMA, I don't believe there was a time limit or a number of candidates that were restricted. So if you're not pleased with the first 4 or 5 that were submitted to you, I'm sure if you made a phone call or asked them again, there's more than just 4 or 5 potential temporary folks that can work in that capacity. So, if you don't want to use them in any way, form, or fashion as a resource, that's your choice. I do agree. Same thing with whether you decide to use the $25,000 allotted for you to use as professional service. Whether you want to use it or not, that's certainly up to you. We're just trying to give you tools to assist you. But right here, for you to put in here that the mayor has fulfilled his duties pursuant to, you have it, in my opinion. So, I didn't want to say, that you no longer have to bring your candidates forward. All we were saying is we wanted to assist you in bringing them forward. So, I believe we were in excess of 15 days of your second round of nominees. But regardless, I would just like to encourage you to give us a temporary, try to focus on that for us first, because we do need, assistance. So you're going to be out of town for 15, 18 days, and you don't need assistance in running the city.
Now, let me ask you and caution you, if you would, please don't announce to the public what I'm doing, where I'm going. I think that's kind of a security thing. That doesn't need to be broadcast to everybody there. But it don't matter to me. The city administrator we had before was gone at a different time. I'm not worried about it. I can run. I'm going to continue to do my duties. I'm going to get down to GMA. There'll be a lot of gripping and grinning of people there, and networking and stuff there, and we'll see. I mean, I was more than what I think we had a competent person to turn around and hold an interim, and you guys, same thing, want to do, okay. Then I'll just continue in that march, and I'm going to continue, and I didn't do the wording. I asked Bill to do the wording of it here. I think I fulfilled my duties of that. The 15th day is tomorrow, then you got 2 more. I can give them to you today, but it says 15 days. Tomorrow, 15th day, and I've got 2 more ready for you. We can continue down the line.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Bush.
may I ask you a question, Bill? If the mayor keeps saying he fulfilled his duties, then we do need to have a discussion about Bruce Sutton, because in his fulfillment, he thinks that Bruce Sutton was one of those qualified candidates.
All I'm saying is that if the council, and I understand the concerns, I'm just saying, discussing in public meeting could expose the council to potential claims by Mr. Sutton, depending upon what's said.
May I ask a question? If these are a matter of open records, how could it impact us?
Well, it depends. Depends on what the records are. I haven't seen the records. Some may be open records, some may not be. So if there are things there that are open records, then someone could request them. But I'd have to look at each page and sometimes each word to determine whether or not any.
Right, and so for us sitting up here, this is a prime example of how the citizens don't really get the full facts, because he presents himself as doing his job. We want to present that it's not necessarily the case, and yet we're not allowed to present those facts.
Well, I'm here just to make recommendations.
I'm just making a statement.
Mayor Stewart. Mr. Stack.
Mr. Winkus, I suggest that some of the documents that are in question are on public forums. They're on Wikipedia, they're on LinkedIn, and there are other resources, so they are available in public domain, and govjobs.com, govjobs.com. So a number of these items are out there and available.
Understood.
Okay, Mayor. Mr. Allen.
I just wanted to ask for clarification, Bill, in regards to your secret covert. Nobody needs to know where your travels might be. What's the charter say in regards to the city operations when mayor's out of touch for a certain period of time? I mean, I'm just saying, our staff needs, direction on a day-to-day basis. Some of the locations potentially may not be IT and cell capable to where if he needs to be reached by phone or by internet, may not be available. How does that affect the city and the way it is operating?
Well, that's certainly a question that could be fairly complex. I've not researched that issue. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some provisions in the charter that relate to that. Provision I do know about, just off the top of my head, is the code, and we're talking about 2.12.05, subsection D. It talks about the unavailability of the city administrator, and it provides for essentially, in certain circumstances where the city administrator is unavailable, then the mayor would be the next in line to step in, and if the mayor were not able to step into that position, then the mayor pro tem would be the next in line. So that's one provision that deals with it, and there may be others.
Right. Well, I'm familiar with what you just went over. I'm just asking as to, in this particular instance, we're hamstrung because we have two in the same with the city administrator and the mayor being the same party with travels mandated or selected, either one. Communication from the mayor to the staff to do the administrative side of the city. What is the time frame here? Because if we need a emergency situation arises in public works or something here in City Hall, we need an immediate answer. If, hypothetically, he is unavailable to address that, what parameters do we have to work under? And all I'm asking for is because, honestly, the majority of it, I think, especially Mr. Harold, is going to be, in GMA training. So that's accessible. There's phone calls and there's emails, and it's very accessible. We don't know what other travels any one of us in particular might be under, but the one that we need to be most concerned with is the mayor and him acting in the position of city administrator. So I think we need to know before the mayor / city administrator does whatever traveling he deems necessary for whatever time frame he needs to do. This city needs to be confident that if there is an emergency, that there is a mechanism or a system in place. And right now, I think there's a void. And in my knowledge, there's a void. And that we have newer council members that are less maybe prepared than I might be. So I'm just asking for some direction here. He says he wants to continue to act in that role and in that capacity, but when you are not available potentially for an 8 or a 10 or 12-hour time frame, how does that affect us, in the city?
Well, and again, I'd have to research your question thoroughly and get back with you. There's section 2.12 of the charter, which talks about vacancies in office. However, that appears to be just when there's a suspension or a death, that sort of thing. So it wouldn't apply to vacations. And again, I would like to some more time to research that, but there is the provision relating to the city administrator. And so I think it's highly likely that in the instance where the mayor was unavailable for a certain particular period of time that fit the provisions of the code, that the mayor pro tem would be the next one to step in.
Well, I know that the ordinance that Ms. Bushman alluded to earlier, the one that's somewhat in question periodically, it gives a 4-hour time frame, so that either the city administrator is unavailable or unable to be communicated with by the mayor or staff, there is a statement of 4 hours there. So I certainly, Bill, want to give you full opportunity to do what you need to do to help us there. But certain members of us will be departing pretty soon, and I think we need to have some direction as to how we take care of the questions of our staff in case there is an emergency or something needs to be addressed in the city.
Can I get all of y'all a memo tomorrow on that? Sure. I'd be happy to lay that out for everyone, so everyone knows how things are going.
Thank you, Bill.
So, back to any more discussion, we need to address the consideration of waiver. Do we have a motion to deny it, or you want to pass it?
I make a motion to deny the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bushman. Any more discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. None. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Salute.
Have a second?
I'll second that also.
All in favor? It is adjourned.